All right, you guys, Drake Riggs here in Las Vegas with Miss Amy Kaplan of FanSided, here for SCMP MMA, of course. Amy, we're here for UFC 259 Fight Week, of course. Just does it feel as big as it is being, presented?
It does in some ways, and it doesn't in others. Obviously, no fans makes it a little bit less. But the feel of there's a lot more media here than normal. There's more buzz within the circles. I mean, I think it's a big deal.
Yeah, and it still does have a pretty good vibe to it, despite the weird times of everything. And I think that all the fights that we have, it's hard not to feel this way. They stacked it up very good, right?
Yeah, and the fact that there's cross fingers,
Right.
no fights that have gotten canceled so far. I think that that's a big deal. I think it's been a long time since there's been that many fights where they're exciting and they're happening in one night.
Yeah, knock on wood for that. And just speaking of all of these great fights, of course, we know what to expect with the title fight. It's going to be awesome, presumably. But leading up to that, we have 15 total. I don't even know
15.
the number. 15 total fights. So plenty leading up to the title fights. Any in particular that you're looking forward to before we get to some gold?
I mean, I think my one that I'm kind of honing in on is Islam Makhachev and Drew Dober. I think that fight is like just exciting on paper, exciting in front of you. I think that no matter what happens, it's going to be a banger. It's going to either be a really quick finish or it's going to be a long decision, and either one I think is going to be really exciting.
Yeah, and do you think, Islam is a guy that'll be affected by ring rust at all? Because this is his first fight since 2019.
I don't think so. I think that ring rust is a really big myth. I think you're only affected by it if you think about it. I think there's really no such thing as ring rust because it's not like he hasn't been training. It wasn't an injury, right? It was
He had an issue.
staph infection or something.
Yeah, he had some issues.
Yeah, it
Nothing
wasn't like
super crazy.
Yeah, it wasn't like he's recovering from knee surgery or
Right.
anything like that. So he's been training. I think that it'll be fine. I think it'll be exciting to see how he's changed. And also, I was kind of doing a little bit of research, and I hadn't realized that they were matched before. I think 2016.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I think that this fight's a long time in the making, and we deserve it.
Mm-hmm. And at this point, too, where they are with Drew Dober getting this fight, he's not ranked. Makhachev's still ranked at 14. Dober, though, has only lost one of his last, 7 or whatever. So if he wins, how high do you think he can jump up in the rankings?
I think it'll depend on how he wins,
Right,
for sure.
right.
I think if he gets a finish, yeah, maybe top 10. I mean, that's a pretty big
That'd
bump.
be 4 in a row.
Yeah, I mean, it's a pretty big bump, but you never know. It depends on what happens with him. It depends on how it plays out. But yeah, I think that's why it's so exciting because it means a lot to no matter who wins.
Yeah. And then for me, I, of course, have to go with Dominic Cruz's return against Casey Kenny as my pick. No surprise there in the prelim headliner. His bantamweights. You can't go wrong there. Dominic taking on his first unranked opponent since he's become champion, right? I mean, even they didn't have rankings back at the WEC, but yeah. And then as for the title fights, let's do some predictions, Amy. Well, let's start with actually the one before Dober and Makhachev, the light heavyweights. I know you like light heavyweight action. Rakic and Santos. How do you think that one's going to go?
Rakic, totally. I think finish. I don't know how, but I love Santos, but I just think he's distracted. I think there's something. I think his mind is outside the cage. I think he's kind of thinking of his pathway out.
Really?
Yeah, I just don't see him really being engaged as much as I think he needs to be.
You're thinking relationship things here.
Potentially. I mean, that for sure, but I think that he's eyeing the end of his career almost. He's getting to the point where
People forget how old he is.
right, he's old, no offense.
Not old.
Yeah, old. And he's also already fought for the title. I mean, it's like it's that point where you kind of have to think about. It's one thing when you're going into this fight and you have your whole life ahead of you, but then you have this guy who's there's so much pressure on him. I feel like that could really come into play.
Yeah. It's going to be an interesting one. Of course, he's always very dangerous. And we're talking about Yana Kunitskaya, if you guys do not know, who got a good win over Ketlin Vieira a couple weeks ago. I am also going with Rakic. I like the game plan and approach that he used against Anthony Smith, kind of showed the grappling wrinkle to his game. And, he's arguably should still be undefeated. So I have to go with him as well on that one. So, all right. We already talked about Dober and Makhachev, but quick pick then. Who's going to get it done?
Okay, so I think if it goes to decision, it's Makhachev, and I think if it is a knockout, it's going to be Dober, and if it's a submission, it's Makhachev.
Yeah, I like that breakdown as well, but I'm gonna go with Makhachev it seems a safer pick, you know. But I do like Dober and everything he's done since really getting on this roll. All right, first title fight, Sterling and Jan. What do you think?
Sterling all day. I think that Sterling wants it more. I think Sterling deserves it more. I think Sterling has worked for it more. And I love Piotr Jan, say it correctly. And I told you my story about seeing him in Thailand. I'm a huge fan of his. I would not be disappointed if he won, but I really think that it's Sterling's night.
Yeah, I agree. I think that Sterling just has a very complete game and has evolved a lot over the course of his 7-year UFC career now. It's crazy to think he's been in it for so long now. But yeah, I like what he has to bring to the table as well and get this done. And then co-main event, the ladies. Let's talk about the ladies a bit. Featherweight title fight. Are we getting the upset, Amy? You know my answer to this already, and most of you probably do.
Yeah. I mean, I'm going to go on a limb. I really feel it. I feel like there's an upset tomorrow night, and I almost feel like we're going to get 3 upsets. I feel like we're going to get 3 new champions. I think that I just feel it. There's something in the air, and I would really love to see Megan with the title. I think she deserves it too.
Yeah. Well, I do agree with that, and we pretty much skipped ahead to all new champions there. And actually, just to be correct about things, Megan would be the only upset. Were you aware that that's the only on the odds? On the odds.
If you're talking odds, yes. I don't really look at the odds. I mean in the sense of like a new champion.
Right.
Yeah.
Yep, so agree, of course. You guys know Megan, first round knockout for me. If she doesn't get it done, I'm going to get a tattoo of a goat on me. That's where we are, you know, bold picking.
I'm going to do the tattooing. No, I'm just kidding.
That wouldn't be good. It's not going to happen anyway, so it doesn't matter. All right, the main event then, obviously going Adesanya, as am I. But how? I feel like we're all sleeping on Jan still, even after that amazing Reyes performance. Totally forget about it.
I actually think that of the 3 fights, that's the one that I'm the least confident about the result in. I think that perhaps Izzy is not taking into consideration the size difference as much. I think that that Jan just he looks really relaxed and comfortable and like, this is my title, this is my time. And I think Izzy might be caught up a little bit in the show and the talk. And so I feel like I always, as you can tell, my predictions are always much more about heart and like thought and brain rather than like physical skill, because I really think that that's way more important than anything else.
Yeah, I agree.
So yeah, I think that's the one that's the closest. I think either way it's going to be decision.
Yeah, very possible. I mean, they can both get knockouts, but more likely for Jan. I mean, he's only been knocked out once. Well, 2 on his record, but one was a doctor stoppage. The other, Thiago Santos, who we have mentioned already. But yeah, it's going to be very, very interesting, and I like Adesanya as well. Just going to be the quicker guy, has to avoid that power. We'll see how it goes. And before we wrap up here, probably should have started with this, but today was weigh-in day. So like in terms of the weigh-in feels, the vibes, we always get the like, ooh, he didn't look very good, maybe a little bit drained. Did anybody stand out to you? In our comments, we had mentions of Benavidez looked more drained than most, but I didn't really get that feeling. But anybody stand out to you? Who looked the best? Who looked the worst, do you think?
I think Megan looked the best. I think but she always looks amazing. Physically and not just because she's hot, as she is. But I think honestly, the thing that I take away from the weigh-ins is how fast everybody came in. It's so rare that we got most of the card, all but 2 in the first 30 minutes. I mean, I was like, this is crazy. I think that's noteworthy in my opinion.
Yeah, that was very huge. And then only 1 miss out of that time, of course, Askar Askarov, and only by a pound. Didn't even bother. You must have said before he went out there that he wasn't going to be able to make it. But taking on Joseph Benavidez, by the way. So, yeah, UFC 259 going down, Saturday, March 6th, you guys. Right, got to get my times all right. It's been a long week already. So tune in. Give us your predictions in the comments below. Go to Fanatics MMA, the app. Got to get it and put all your picks in there. So enjoy the fights, you guys.
Bye.